Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we'd do a little chilled one in my rocking chair, even though it's too close to the wall and it's just going to scratch the paint off. I thought we'd do a little video just talking about why we decided that this flat was the one that we should buy. I think if you saw all the flats that we saw and if you saw the listings online, you'd be like, why was that their favourite? It doesn't perhaps jump off the screen as the sexiest, the coolest. It's certainly not the biggest, but it was the right flat for us right now. And I think that's the key thing. It's a very personal thing and it's about your situation. Blah. I'll go into the nitty gritty in a second. I just thought by talking about our decision process and our whittling down process and how we came to certain decisions, it might help people who are about to embark on this process themselves and find their first home. And for anyone that perhaps has had their first home, even their second or third, and feel like they haven't quite nailed the process of finding their home. Because Si and I still, till this day, we find ourselves saying, I'm so glad we bought this one. And I'm so relieved because, as you know, I made a point of seeing a lot of properties because I just really wanted to get it right. We'd waited a long time to get to this point where this could even be a thing that we could do. So it was important to me. I was very wise with the money and that I just did my due diligence, that I made sure I thought through everything very carefully, that I was being sensible and that I wasn't going off in dreamland and being unrealistic or being idealist about things. I just wanted, can you hear that bird? I just wanted to make sure that I made the right call. And because Si was working, a lot of it was left up to me. So it was a huge, huge responsibility. And I'm very thankful that Si trusted me enough to let me kind of take the lead on all this. But it did feel like quite a weight at times, even though I kind of secretly also liked the control. To start off, I thought I'd talk about the things that were, for me, must-haves. First of all, for me, I needed it to have a bath, or at least have room to put in a bath. And now, if there wasn't a bath already in place and I would need to put in a bath, that the price of the property needed to be at a level that there would leave me some money from our budget to be able to get that work done, because you know, we just can't conjure up thousands of pounds willy-nilly. Like it's a big thing for us to add any amount of money to any sort of project. So yeah, there had to be some either wiggle room in the asking price that I could ask the sellers to reduce the price in order for me to do that work, or it already had to be at a level where there's enough left of the budget that I could put into that project. So that was number one. I needed a bath because, as you know, I get pain, and baths and Epsom salts are essential to me, my everyday quality of life. We wanted a second bedroom too. We knew that moving from a big family house to a flat would be a challenge in terms of just stuff and storage. We wouldn't be able to just palm some of our stuff into my mum's cupboard or into the spare bedroom or into the cupboard under the stairs. So we knew that a second bedroom would likely be a multi-purpose space. We wanted it to ideally be big enough so we could have Si's mum over to stay whenever she wanted to. And we also wanted it to be a sort of office studio space for me. As I work from home, it's quite important that I have a space that I can work in. And it's something that's really held me back career-wise over the last decade or so, having to work pretty much from my bed and in my bedroom. It's just not been practical at all. So that was another must-have. For me, as I don't drive, I wanted to be within a mile of a station so that when I have events or work things in London, I can walk to the station. I can't be affording to pay for taxis and Ubers all the time, so it needed to be in walking distance, and obviously the closer the better for me. Being close to amenities, of course, would be very helpful to me too. So if there was a local small supermarket or something like that, that would be a huge bonus. Outdoor space we're quite realistic about. We knew that that would just be kind of a bonus thing, but obviously if one did have private outdoor space, then brilliant. Because I was likely to be in the space a lot of the time on my own, because Si's job means now that he is in the office till 8 most nights, leaves the house at 7 something in the morning, so that's a lot of time on my own. We wanted it to feel like a relatively safe area, not too dodgy, just somewhere that I would feel relaxed being on my own for the majority of my life. At the moment we weren't really thinking about catchments for schools or anything like that. Let's talk about location, because that's been a big part really of the process of us buying a place and certain limitations we have. We decided that we'd like to stay close to where we have been living with my family. It's become a place that Si calls home now as well, since he moved in with the family, and he loves it too. It's a really lovely area. It's on the commuter belt, so it's still handy to go into London, but you really feel that escape and sense of relief when you come home. It's that perfect balance of kind of town, country living. It's very green and leafy, but it has all the restaurants you want. It's got cinemas, it's got places of historical interest, it's got great walking places, great pubs. It's got a lot going for it, but unfortunately that comes with a cost, and it is actually one of those places that's been listed in the papers as one of the most expensive places to live. It's a place where a lot of celebrities live. There's a place called St George's Hill, which is an exclusive, what would you call it? It's a gated housing area where a lot of celebrities live, and because the Chelsea training ground used to be nearby, obviously a lot of the footballers used to live around here too, so it's become a bit of an exclusive pricey area. Even if you don't live in those fancy areas, which we didn't, prices are very high because it ticks a lot of boxes. It's good for the airports, it's very close to Heathrow, but still fairly easy for Gatwick. It's, as I said, commuter belt, so it's easy access into London, and it's got everything you could need really. So for that reason, when we told them our budget, we were told it was challenging, which is a little bit worrying when someone says that, but you know me, I love a challenge. But it was frustrating, because when we had put that budget into Rightmove and see what we could get if we moved a bit up north, places like Northamptonshire, Kettering, Norwich, even places Essex, Liverpool, Manchester, we could get, you know, a 4-bedroom family house, and it's kind of gutting to a degree, but at the same time, we this is where we have to be right now. We need to and want to be near Si's mum, who's on her own. My brother and his wife have just had a baby. I want to be near my niece. They've literally just moved back to this area, so for us to then move straight away, it would just be silly. Si has a good job here, wants to stay near for that, and at the moment it still probably makes sense for me to have access to London to some degree. It's kind of irrelevant what our money could get elsewhere. The situation is that here our money can only get us so much. It was challenging. And so probably a fairly modest flat was going to be what we would be getting right now, which we were absolutely fine with because there's only 2 of us. We don't need a sprawling space right now. So ideally we wanted to stay where we were, but we knew we were likely to get less for our money if we did stay exactly where we are now. So we picked out a few towns that we were willing to look at as well, that are slightly further out and slightly more affordable. I think when I first started out the process of looking, I was very open-minded. I was very much like trying to have imagination and be able to visualize what a space could be once we put our stamp on it. But I think as time went on, I realized actually I didn't want to do too much time-consuming work, and pretty much nothing that was more than just decorative cosmetic stuff, because it had taken us so long to get to this point of being able to move in, and in a sense Si and I have both felt that we've almost lost out on a lot of what our young adulthood should have been like. So we feel like we're playing catch up, and we almost don't want to waste any more time not being able to just live in our own place and live how we felt like we should have been living for the last decade. And when I say that, I mean having privacy, having independence, enjoying the space, having friends over, relaxing in our home. Just doing the simple things that a lot of people take for granted as being a normal thing 20, 30 somethings can do. We haven't been able to do that over the last decade. We've had all our meals in our bedroom. We've worked from my bedroom. My bedroom has also been the office. I'm not saying, oh, poor us. We were lucky to have that opportunity to have a roof over our heads that we could save. That was fantastic. Not everyone has that privilege. But it did mean that we couldn't socialise with friends at our place. We couldn't host. We couldn't, decide what we wanted to watch on the telly in the lounge, or, we couldn't have dinner parties, that sort of thing. Even though at first I'd be like, oh no, this has potential. Yeah, I can see what we could do that. We could take that wall down. We could do that. We could change that. As I went on, I soon realised, actually, I want to be able to get in there and live our lives as soon as possible. So the ones that kind of presented themselves as projects became less and less appealing the more I thought about it. There was one I went to with my mum actually, and she was so panicked that I was going to go for it because she said she wouldn't even feel safe visiting me there. It was what people call a doer-upper. It wasn't the prettiest, but I could see its potential, and I don't know whether the creative people, we do get excited a little bit by these things that we can transform and change and pretty up, but she was absolutely appalled at the prospect that I might pick that one. When the survey came back on the one that we finally put an offer on, there wasn't anything hugely worrying about the structure or the build. It is a purpose-built maisonette rather than a house that's been turned into flats, which is always what you should try and go for. Purpose-built will have the thicker walls so you don't hear as much of what's going on next door and below. It's just built for that purpose essentially, so it's going to be better for what it's being used as. Apart from, there was an issue with a chimney, and I got the solicitors to discuss with the solicitors of the vendors to make sure that was paid for before we moved in. So that's something you might want to consider. If there is any building work that you don't feel that you should have to pay for, then you might want to reconsider your offer or have a discussion really about what can be done about that to make sure that both parties are happy with that situation. Structurally, it was sound. So really, it was just a case of, paint and decoration, really. We looked at quite a few modern flats during our process, and they were obviously really sleek. They were brand new, sexy with wooden floorings, white walls, the latest appliances and stuff like that. Some of them, the layout just didn't flow for us, and it didn't work how we know that we would work, and a lot of them were open plan living, which works great for a lot of people. But Si is a very noisy chef. He bangs and bashes and leaves a mess, and there's lots of smells going on, and I just didn't think really in an ideal world I wanted that essentially in my lounge as well at all times. So for us, actually, that was a bit of a minus point if it was open plan. And we did find with a lot of the open plans, the lounge area wasn't actually that big. It didn't leave you much space to be able to put your stamp on it. And I kind of liked the idea of having another room that I could create an atmosphere and design in, rather than it being one space. Another feature that kept appearing that aesthetically is beautiful, but we realised actually wasn't going to be practical for us. A lot of the flats, particularly the ones in the roof, well, obviously it would have to be in the roof, had skylights or windows in the roof or slanted windows. And obviously these can look striking and beautiful and can stream in beautiful shafts of light and all that lovely stuff. But realistically, we live in a country, there's a lot of rain. If you have these skylights in your bedroom, the noise of the raindrops is going to drive you up the wall. Unless you like that noise, of course. As someone that struggles to sleep and has enough noise issues to battle with already, I didn't need that issue, to be honest, on top of things. And while my design eye loved the look of it, my practical Soph came into play and said, no, that's not actually going to work for you or give you good quality of life or sleep. Another thing that we learned through the process that became very important was light. One of the biggest flats we went into, oh God, I loved it in so many ways. It had two bathrooms, both had baths and showers, and both extremely roomy. It had a huge kind of corridor hall area, which would have meant we could have loads of console tables and storage units and stuff within it. It had huge bedrooms, a huge lounge. The kitchen was just so, but it was just dingy. It was just dark, and both of the bathrooms didn't have any natural light. And we realised the more we looked into these things that actually light was so important to us and how we felt in the space. It's all well and good having a lot more room and a lot more square footage, but it's pointless if it's not quality space and space that makes you happy. So that became a big thing. And talking about bathrooms as well, I didn't realise this would be a deal breaker, but we went to a lot of flats, and particularly the ones in a lot of the high rises actually, they had those, because they didn't have windows, they had those vents, those things that make a lot of noise, ooh, that get all the damp air out and stuff. And I don't know about you, I don't like bathrooms that have those really noisy fans and vents, and I don't like that feeling of built up moistness you can get in bathrooms that don't have ventilation. So that became actually a thing that would become really exciting when I found a flat that actually had a bathroom that had a window in it. It's funny the things you take for granted when you've had them for so long. I never thought having a window in a bathroom would become something that I'd look for, but it really did. So if you've been watching my house hunting vlogs, you'll know that before we chose this flat, we put in an offer and nearly got a house. And in hindsight now, Si and I realise that it's a blessing that we didn't get that house, because what we have now is so much better suited to what we want right now, what fits our life right now. Not saying the house wasn't great in many ways, but it would have required a lot more work. The kitchen looked like the industrial zone from the Crystal Maze, which we kind of liked in a weird way, but we knew we would have had to completely refit at some point. There was a big tree in the garden which had roots which would likely cause a lot of disruption in the next few years. And I don't know if you've had any tree work done before, but it is hugely expensive to get big trees removed or cut down. But we were won over by the fact it was a house. We got excited by the fact we could say we own a house, which really in hindsight is silly. I mean, who cares? And we were also excited by the fact we had private outdoor space with that. But like I said, that outdoor space came with problems. Also with that house, the second bedroom had a water tank in it, which was taking up a large chunk of the room, which was already fairly small. So that would have been another job which would have cost, and would have also meant that the second bedroom was unusable till that job had been done. So yeah, in a lot of ways it wasn't actually ticking the boxes, but like I said, we were won over by the fact that we could get a house for our money, and walkable to the station, outdoor space, etc. But funnily enough, it was the next day when we were feeling very upset and depressed and heartbroken about losing that this one came up. Now, I showed Si this on Rightmove or Zoopla, whichever one it was, and he vetoed it because the outdoor shot, it doesn't exactly have huge curb appeal. It's a 1970s maisonette block, which it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a block. It's just a red brick block, basically. It doesn't have any cute features. It's not sleek or sexy or cute and period. It's just a block. And I think he just thought it looked a bit meh. But I said, look in the pictures and just really look and try and visualize. And I think he finds that a little bit harder to do, but luckily I convinced him. And when we came in, I brought my mum as well. We'd been to a lot of maisonettes, and the stairway up to the living areas from the front door was very, very tight, dark and confined. This one felt quite roomy, which one is just nice anyway for living purposes to feel you've got space, and two, just for carrying things up and down, which we would have to do, whether it's shopping or furniture or whatever. It allows us room to do that without too much stress. So that was already a big tick. We came in, the light was really great. It just had a really good feel to it. We feel like the design and the flow of this maisonette is really well thought out. They haven't dedicated a lot of the square footage to the hall landing area. They've instead decided to put that into the square footage of the rooms, which for us is much more important. We'd much rather have a bigger second bedroom than more floor space in the hallway, for instance. And a lot of flats that you go to haven't thought that stuff out. They've given really generous communal hall spaces, which aren't really that important. And then you've got these really cramped bedrooms, which you really want to have a bit more space in. So that became a really noticeable thing for us about how space had been allocated in flats and maisonettes. One of the other flats that I wanted to put an offer in, but my sister-in-law urged me to not to was one that would have needed a bath being put into, but there wasn't actually a feasible way of doing that. But was also one that had a really low, is it an EPC rating? It's basically the energy rating, which is usually on all your Zoopla Rightmove things down below. It will have a letter like A, B, C, D, E. It was really low, but didn't have the capabilities to get much better, which means the cost of living there is going to be quite high. You're going to be paying a lot for your bills, essentially, to keep the house warm. And as someone who gets quite cold in winter, that's a factor I really had to consider. And whether it had gas or electric was a big thing. And that flat in question was actually electric, which again is well known for being far more expensive than gas. So the fact that this flat had gas was a huge, huge plus point as well. It's one less thing to worry about in terms of the cost of living in the place. It's annoying though, because that flat was so great in many ways, because it was split level, which was nice because it gives you that feeling of being in a house if you can go upstairs to bed. So I kind of liked that aspect. And it had a square lounge, and it's so much easier to decorate and arrange a square lounge rather than a long thin room. It's really hard to know where to place furniture in long thin rooms, whereas a square one lends itself better to normal kind of sofa formations where you have either fireplace or telly and then sofas like that. So it had a lot of plus points, but unfortunately there were some absolute deal breakers on that one in terms of the cost of living there, the electrics, and the lack of bath. So when we came into this place, another thing that sold the deal, which wasn't on any list anywhere, and it's not something we thought we cared about, but we went into the kitchen and looked out the window, and there was this incredible view that just went on for miles. And we all I looked at my mum and I looked at Si, and we all had this kind of calm, pleasant expression on our faces, and it just felt nice. And there's that untangible, undescribable feeling you sometimes get when you get in a place and you just think, this feels right, or this feels right for us. And I think Si was keeping his cards very close to his chest, so at the time I didn't know if this was a feeling that I was just getting, but I was definitely getting that feeling. So I was itching to ask Si, what did you think when he came out? And thankfully he felt exactly the same, as did my mum. I think there's just some places that just feel happy, and other places that tick all the boxes but somehow just don't feel right. So that's another thing that kind of guided us a little bit, although I would say don't just go on that feeling. Make sure a lot of your important boxes are ticked as well. As I said before, we obviously had to refer to the survey as well to just check there wasn't going to be something that we're likely going to have to fork out for in the near future, particularly when you're in a maisonette. You might have service charges. We're lucky here, we don't have any sort of service or communal charges at all to pay for a year, but there is an agreement where if there's some work done on the building that we all have to, it's all divided by the block basically. So we had to look into all those sorts of things. And apart from the chimney thing, which we got sorted, the windows are all double glazed and fairly new. The only thing was that the dishwasher didn't work, but we could live with that. I mean, we can wash up, that's not a big issue. The fridge was staying, the washing machine was staying, the oven was staying, so we weren't going to have to purchase any new appliances, so that wasn't going to be anything that we'd have to outlay for. All the plumbing was fine, there wasn't damp. Yeah, so we knew that, you know, there wasn't going to be anything too pricey for us to spend on. The only surprise that happened actually when we got the keys was that the carpet was a lot worse than we thought. So that was probably the biggest expense, but we got the cheapest carpet that Carpetright were doing at the time, and we're very happy with it, and it's done the job, so it wasn't even a big issue really. Another thing that helped us with our decision process was if there was ever one that was in the running for us putting an offer in, or that we were considering putting an offer in, I did a recce of the walk to the station, so I could see what it would be like for me to walk to the station for work if we bought the place. I wanted to know if I felt safe doing it, whether it was steep or a difficult terrain, whether it was a nice walk even, how long it took, that sort of thing. I made sure I checked that out, because sometimes it can give you the the distance on the information sheet and stuff like that, but it doesn't actually tell you how long it will actually take you, because it doesn't factor in certain things. So it's important to try that out for yourself. I also want to get a feel for the area in general, so I made a point of visiting here a few times, walking around the local town, visiting the shops. I even actually made sure I checked out the local co-op just to see whether it's one that was well stocked, to see if it actually was a good one, because you can get these local supermarkets that just don't have any of the stuff that you buy, so they're not actually a huge bonus to have nearby. But it was a good one, so that was another big tick. So talking about that, actually this flat is a 4-minute walk from the little village, which has the post office, newsagent, florist, hardware store, co-op, a charity shop so I can hunt for bargains, an Indian takeaway, a Chinese takeaway, a chemist. It's literally got everything I could need, and I can get there within 5 minutes on foot, which is just, it's been absolutely life-changing for me. It feels like when I was at uni, when I had that independence and I didn't have to rely on anyone for lifts. I could literally walk to and get anything and not feel like a bird, and have that wonderful feeling of confidence and independence that you get from being able to just get on with stuff yourself. And I can't tell you how amazing it's been to have a local hardware store, particularly during decorating, because whenever I ran out of paint or needed a new paintbrush or needed a new tool, I could literally just pop down there, and it just feels also nice to support local business. God, I'm waffling, I'm going off on one. I bet even after I've edited this video it's nearing half an hour, isn't it? Oh God, sorry guys. So I'll just sum it up and just capture the big things that made this the one for us. Okay, so location wise, so I was right in thinking that if we stayed in our previous location we wouldn't get much for our money. The properties we did see immediately told us that we would sacrifice a whole lot to be able to stay in that area, and we'd get a space that really wouldn't make us happy just to stay in the nicer area. So we realised we'd have to move back to one of these alternative, more affordable towns that weren't far away anyway. So that's one thing we learnt, and actually we're very happy where we are, and I think as long as it's safe and you feel safe there and it still ticks the boxes location wise, it's fine. To the spacious second bedroom, when we saw it, that's I think one of the things that made us go, ooh, because we'd seen so many cramped tiny box rooms as second bedrooms, and this was one that could fit a double bed, so for us that was a huge plus point. 3, we learned that it's not about getting the biggest place, it's about finding one where the space is quality space. And this is something that my sister-in-law kind of warned me about when she was asking me the questions when I first started. She's like, do you care about how big it is, or do you care more about how good the space is? And I wish I'd thought about that more initially, because it's so true. Having seen some huge places and not falling in love with them, I realised how important it is that the space is right. I can't remember what number I'm on, so I forget the numbers. D, that it had a bath. We got a bath. It's turned out that it's a smaller than standard size bath, so Si does struggle a little bit to get in there, and there's definitely no shared bath activities going on, but it's got a bath nonetheless. We do actually have a garden. It is slightly overlooked, so we don't get that feeling of it being a private garden, but it is solely our garden, which is a huge bonus. Light, it's a beautiful light flat, and we get the most beautiful sunsets either side because it's double aspect, and yeah, just the light streams in beautifully, and that really affects our mood, and I think that's a really important factor actually. As I said, windows are a big thing. We've got the double glazing, which is great, but also we don't have any windows that cause excess noise, so that's a big bonus. We didn't have to spend too much on the place in terms of getting new utility stuff or any just structural work, so that was a big bonus for us because we had a budget which we really had to stick to. Like I said, because we've waited so long, we didn't really want to spend too much time doing the flat up. We wanted to be able to enjoy it as soon as possible, so it ticked that box. And because it's not the forever home, again, that's another reason why we didn't want to spend too much on this place, because it wouldn't actually be that good an investment for us to do that we want to save that money for the place that we want to live in for the long haul, and that we can enjoy the improvements for a long time. And for the same reason, that's why we weren't caring about school catchment stuff, even though this one is actually fantastic for that, which will actually benefit us when we come to sell it. Thinking about it, that's another thing we did consider, obviously with Brexit and just house prices always being a little bit unknown and unsettled. We did want to think about whether this was a place that would be easy to sell when it comes to that time, as this isn't a long-term prospect for us. And we feel like with the school catchment, the fact that we could get it to a level where it's looking quite presentable, the fact it's got the second bedroom, which would be great for a kid's bedroom and was previously used as a kid's bedroom, the fact it's got outdoor space, the fact it's good for amenities and the station, we figured it would be one that would be easy to sell when it comes to that time again. And then, as I said earlier, also the fact that it's gas, which means that the price of the bills will be lower than if it was electric run place. So yeah, I think I've covered most of the stuff. Oh my god, I forgot to mention we've got a loft as well. That was another big selling point. Storage, as I said, is a big thing for us, so the fact we had a loft was a huge thing, even though the legal issues I had regarding that loft were incredible. Maybe I'll do a video about that at some point. Stressful, that's all I can say. But yeah, we got a loft, and actually there's some garages that we've been able to rent literally just down the road as well, which has been a massive bonus as well. So many plus points about this flat, even though it's not the biggest, it doesn't have cute period features, it's not the sexiest, there's so many amazing points to it, and it was the one for us. Okay, I'm gonna go. I need to start writing down bullet points for these videos and just being a bit more snappy. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in another video soon.